An American Dictionary of the English Language. By Noah Webster. Legume Doctor. First published in 1828, in 2 volumes. Letter A. From ABROTANUM to ABSOLVER. ABROTANUM. Noun. Greek ABROTANUM. A species of plant, arranged under the genus Artemisia. Called also, southern wood. Abrupt. Adjective. Latin abruptus, from abrumpo. To break off. Of ab and rumpo. See rupture. 1. Literally, broken off or broken short. Hence. 2. Steep, craggy. Applied to rocks, precipices, and the like. 3. Figuratively, sudden. Without notice to prepare the mind for the event. As an abrupt entrance and address. 4. Unconnected. Having sudden transitions from one subject to another. As an abrupt style. Ben Jonson. 5. In botany. An abrupt pinnate leaf is one which has neither leaflet nor tendril at the end. Thomas Martin. Abrupt. Noun. A chasm or gulf with steep sides. Over the vast abrupt. John Milton. This use of the word is infrequent. Abruption. Noun. A sudden breaking off. A violent separation of bodies. John Woodward. Abruptly. Adverb. Suddenly, without giving notice. Or without the usual forms. As, the minister left France, abruptly. Abruptness. Noun. A state of being broken. Cragness, steepness. 2. Figuratively, suddenness. Unceremonious haste, or vehemence. Abscess. Noun. Latin obscussus. From ob and cato. To go from. An impisthume. A collection of morbid matter. Or pus in the cellular, or adipose membrane. Matter generated by the suppuration of an inflammatory tumor. John Quincy, Robert Hooper. Abscind. Verb transitive. Latin abscindo. To cut off. Little used. Absciss. Noun. Latin obscussus. From ob and scindere, to cut. Greek schizo. See scissors. In conics, a part of the diameter, or transverse axis of a conic section. Intercepted between the vertex, or some other fixed point, and a semiordinate. Encyclopedia. Abscission. Noun. See absciss. A cutting off, or a being cut off. In surgery. The separation of any corrupted, or useless part of the body, by a sharp instrument. Applied to the soft parts, as amputation is, to the bones, and flesh of a limb. John Quincy. Abscond. Verb intransitive. Latin abscondo, to hide. Of obs, and condo, to hide. That is, to withdraw, or to thrust aside. Or into a corner, or secret place. 1. To retire from public view, or from the place in which one resides, or is ordinarily to be found. To withdraw, or absent oneself, in a private manner. To be concealed, appropriately. Used of persons, who secrete themselves, to avoid a legal process. 2. To hide, withdraw, or be concealed. As, the marmot absconds, in winter. Little used. John Ray. Absconder. Noun. One who withdraws, from public notice. Or conceals himself, from public view. Absconding. Participle of the present tense. Withdrawing privately, from public view. As, an absconding debtor. Who confines himself to his apartments, or absents himself to avoid the ministers of justice. In the latter sense, it is properly an adjective. Absence. Noun. Latin obsens. From obsum, abessa, to be away. Ob and sum. 1. A state of being at a distance in place, or not in company. It is used to denote any distance indefinitely, either in the same town or country or in a foreign country, and primarily supposes a prior presence. Speak well of one in his absence. 2. Want, destitution. Implying no previous presence. In the absence of conventional law. Chancellor Kent. 3. In law, non-appearance. A not being in court to answer. 4. Heedlessness, inattention to things present. Absence of mind is the attention of the mind to a subject, which does not occupy the rest of the company, and which draws the mind from things or objects, which are present to others distant or foreign. Absent. Adjective. Not present, not in company. At such a distance as to prevent communication. It is used also for being in a foreign country. A gentleman is absent on his travels. Absent from one another. Genesis, chapter 31, verse 49. 2. Heedless, inattentive to persons present, or to subjects of conversation in company. An absent man is uncivil to the company. 3. In familiar language, not at home. As the master of the house is absent. In other words, he does not wish to be disturbed by company. Absent. Verb transitive. To depart to such a distance as to prevent intercourse. To retire or withdraw. To forbear to appear in presence. Used with the reciprocal pronoun. Let a man absent himself from the company. Absentee. Noun. One who withdraws from his country, office, or estate. One who removes to a distant place or to another country. Absentir. Noun. One who absents himself. Absentment. Noun. A state of being absent. Isaac Barrow. Absinthian. Adjective. From absinthium. Of the nature of wormwood. Thomas Randolph. Absinthiated. Adjective. Impregnated with wormwood. Dictionary. Absinthium. Noun. Greek absinthian. Persian absinthan. The same in Chaldaic. Budeus in his commentaries on Theophrast supposes the word composed of a privative and synthos. Delight, so named from its bitterness. But it may be an oriental word. The common wormwood. A bitter plant used as a tonic. A species of Artemisia. Abscess. Noun. In astronomy. See apsis. Absolute. Adjective. Latin absolutes. See absolve. 1. Literally, in a general sense. Free, independent of anything extraneous. Hence. 2. Complete in itself. Positive, as an absolute declaration. 3. Unconditional, as an absolute promise. 4. Existing independent of any other cause. As God is absolute. 5. Unlimited by extraneous power or control. As an absolute government or prince. 6. Not relative, as absolute space. Edward Stillingfleet. In grammar. The case absolute is when a word or member of a sentence is not immediately dependent on the other parts of the sentence, in government. Absolute equation. In astronomy, is the aggregate of the optic and eccentric equations. The apparent inequality of a planet's motion in its orbit, arising from its unequal distances from the Earth at different times, is called its optic equation. The eccentric inequality is caused by the uniformity of the planet's motion in an elliptical orbit, which for that reason appears not to be uniform. Absolute numbers in algebra are such as have no letters annexed, as 2a plus 36 equals 48. The two latter numbers are absolute or pure. Encyclopedia. Absolute space. In physics, is space considered without relation to any other object? Nathan Bailey. Absolute gravity. In philosophy, is that property in bodies by which they are said to weigh so much, without regard to circumstances of modification. And this is always as the quantity of matter they contain. Nathan Bailey. Absolutely. Adverb. Completely, wholly. As a thing is absolutely unintelligible. 2. Without dependence or relation. In a state unconnected. Absolutely, we cannot discommend. We cannot absolutely approve. Either willingness to live or forwardness to die. Richard Hooker. 3. Without restriction or limitation. As God reigns, absolutely. 4. Without condition. As God does not forgive absolutely, but upon condition of faith and repentance. 5. Positively, peremptorily. As command me, absolutely not to go. John Milton. Absoluteness. Noun. Independence, completeness in itself. 2. Despotic authority, or that which is subject to no extraneous restriction or control. Absolution. Noun. In the civil law, an acquittal or sentence of a judge declaring an accused person innocent. In the canon law, a remission of sins pronounced by a priest in favor of a penitent. Among Protestants, a sentence by which an excommunicated person is released from his liability to punishment. John Ailiff, Robert South. Absolutory. Adjective. Absolving, that absolves. Absolvatory. Adjective. From absolve. Containing absolution, pardon, or release. Having power to absolve. Randall Cotgrave. Absolve. Verb transitive. Absolve. Latin absolvo. From ob and salvo. To loose or release. Kaldi shala. To absolve, to finish. Hebrew shal. To loose or loosen. See solve. To set free or release from some obligation, debt, or responsibility. Or from that which subjects a person to a burden or penalty. As to absolve a person from a promise. To absolve an offender. Which amounts to an acquittal and remission of his punishment. Hence, in the civil law, the word was used for acquit. And in the canon law, for forgive, or a sentence of remission. In ordinary language, its sense is to set free, or release from an engagement. Formerly, good writers used the word, in the sense of finish, accomplish. As to absolve work, in Milton. But in this sense, it seems to be obsolete. Absolved. Participle passive. Released, acquitted. Remitted, declared innocent. Absolver. Noun. One who absolves. Also one that pronounces sin to be remitted. Next page begins with absolving. Original source text is in the public domain. This audio recording, including AI-assisted narration, restoration, and editorial structure is copyrighted. 2026 by Muse of Folios. All rights reserved. ABROTANUM. 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 Abrupt. 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 Abruption. 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 Abruptly. 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 Abruptness. 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 Abscess. 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 Abscend. 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 Abscess. 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 Abscission. 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 Abscond. 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 Absconder. 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 Absconding. 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 Absence. 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 Absent. 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 Absentee. 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 Absenteer. 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 Absentment. 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 Absinthian. 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 Absinthiated. 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 Absinthium. 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 Abscess. 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 Absolute. 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 Absolutely. 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 Absoluteness. 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 Absolution. 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 Absolutary. 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 Absolvatory. 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 Absolve. 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 Absolved. 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 Absolver. Absolver. Absolver.